What's up, everybody? You already know who it is. It's DripGodDero, and I'm back at you guys with another bang. So in today's video, I want to talk about what's next for the San Antonio Spurs. As we know, the San Antonio Spurs is a team that has a legacy of being great, of winning championships, of just being the example of prestige and excellency. But over the last couple of years, they have been the exact opposite. They've been struggling mightily, and they have been at the bottom when it comes to wins in the Western Conference. So with that being said, that does bring into question what's next for this San Antonio Spurs team. And before we do hop into this video, I do want to shout out all the people who've been watching the videos. Shout out to y'all. And all I ask is that y'all keep supporting the channel and subscribe to the channel, because we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. But without further ado, let's switch over and let's get right into it. All right, so let's talk about it, man. What's next for the San Antonio Spurs? First and foremost, we got to start off on their year that they had this year. So in the 2023-2024 season, they finished with a record of 22-60. They were 14th in the Western Conference, and let's be real, that's pitiful. That is pitiful. It was a lot of upsides and there was a lot of downsides. The downsides was just the amount of L's that they took. Like I said, 14th in the Western Conference. But the upside was their rookie and the rookie of the year in Victor Wembanyama. Now, Victor Wembanyama, he is definitely a unicorn. He is definitely a player that this team will build around. And let's just talk about some of the players on this team and what they averaged during their 2023-2024 season. So to start off, I want to talk about Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama, he played 71 games, so he was relatively healthy. And during that season, he had a 46% field goal percentage and a 32% three-point percentage. Now, that doesn't jump off the board, let's be real, but we can somewhat attract a lot of that to him just not having a lot of help and him being the main focal point on the team. Of course, one thing that he did do well was rebounding. He averaged 10 rebounds per game, man, so that's definitely good. When it came to assists, he averaged 4 assists and he averaged 1.2 blocks. So overall, like I said, the numbers, they don't jump out when it comes to the efficiency, but I do expect that to get better over time as this team in general gets better. Now, another player that I feel like is going to be a focal point for this team and a player that this team should build around is Devin Vassell. Now, Devin Vassell, he had him a great season this year, man. He averaged 19 points per game. And on that 19 points per game, he was fairly efficient. He shot 47% from the field and 37% from three on 6 attempts. So overall, a great season. He averaged 4 assists per game on only 1 turnover, which is also good. And yeah, overall, he had a great season, man. I like him a lot. And hey, he has a bright future with this team. Now let's talk about some players that some people like, some people dislike, and I'm going to keep it real. This player that I'm about to bring up right now, Jeremy Sochan, I feel like he's a little overrated by San Antonio Spurs fans, but let's talk about him, man. So Jeremy Sochan, he is a player who's fairly young as well. Like I said, I feel like San Antonio Spurs do overrate him a little bit, but let's talk about his stats. So he averaged 11 points per game. On that 11 points per game, he shot 43% from the field and 30% from three. Now, one thing he does have going for him is just his defense. One thing that the San Antonio Spurs tried to do last year is try to play him more as a point forward, but in my opinion, it didn't necessarily work too well. While they were trying to play him as a point forward, he averaged pretty much 3 assists per game and pretty much 2 turnovers per game. So overall, just not too great in my opinion. So yeah, man, I will say he has decent defensive capabilities, but like I said, I do feel like San Antonio Spurs overrate him a lot. The next player I want to talk about is Keldon Johnson. Now, some people have been, kind of low on him, but I still feel like he has a lot of potential upside. Now, he is the oldest of the bunch that I've talked about so far. He is 24 years old, but overall, he has had a slightly down year compared to previous seasons. He averaged 15 points per game, and on that 15 points per game, he shot 45% from the field and 34% from three. Now, a couple of years back, about a year back, probably more, he was more efficient when it came to his shooting, but I think him being less efficient just stems from how many moving pieces and moving parts there have been when it came to this team. I think that's what it really is, and just how he has kind of had to play multiple different roles. But I do still believe in him. Moving on, Trey Jones, I like him a lot. He's a point guard, and he was fairly healthy. He played 77 games, which is nice. And overall, he scored 10 points per game, and on that 10 points per game, he pretty much averaged around a 50% field goal percentage on that. And when it came to the three-point percentage, he was at 33%. Now, I think his three-point percentage can be up. And overall, I like him. He pretty decent, man. He pretty decent, pretty quick. And I do think that he may be the best passer on this team, in my opinion. He averaged 6 assists per game, which is nice, on only 1.5 turnovers. So definitely the best passer, and he has a lot of potential. Now, other than that, they do have a lot of decent role players. The Doug McDermott's, he could shoot. The Cedi Osmond's and other players like that. But let's switch over and let's talk about the salaries for these players, and also a new addition that they got on the team. All right, so as you guys can see, we all switched over. Shout out to CBS Sports, man. Shout out to them. And y'all see the title: Chris Paul to join the Spurs on a 1-year, $11 million deal after being waived by the Warriors. So, yes, it's official. Chris Paul has joined the San Antonio Spurs. And I like this move because it could definitely help some of the younger players. As you guys know, the San Antonio Spurs, they actually drafted a rookie. His name is Stephon Castle. And I feel like, he could definitely, Chris Paul being on this team could definitely help mentor some of these point guards that they have. You got the Trey Jones, who is a great passer, and Chris Paul could definitely help him when it comes to that. He could definitely help mold him into an even better passer and just an even better facilitator. Same with Stephon Castle. Stephon Castle, he kind of raw offensively when it comes to his shooting and things of that nature. And I'm sure Chris Paul could definitely help him in regards to that. Now, just to get my thoughts on Stephon Castle, I think he's kind of a DeJounte Murray style of player, just worse offensively. But hey, DeJounte Murray, when he initially came into the league, he struggled offensively, but he built that up. And I think Stephon Castle could do the same thing. So overall, I like this move from the San Antonio Spurs getting Chris Paul, because the San Antonio Spurs, they are known for, bringing veterans to the team and those veterans revitalizing their career. So, hey, I like the move, and then he could definitely help mold some of these younger players, especially the guards such as Trey Jones and Stephon Castle. But now let's take a look at the salaries so that we can take a look at what they're working with overall when it comes to their salaries. So, as we can see right up here, San Antonio Spurs, shout out to Hoops Hype, and their payroll is not too bad. They're actually 24th when it comes to team payroll in the 2024-2025 season that is upcoming. Y'all know the different key options. Light blue is player option, red is team option, green is qualifying offer, and purple is two-way contract. So y'all know that. And hey man, let's take a look. So Devin Vassell is locked in for the next 4 seasons, which is a nice contract, only at $27 million per year pretty much. That's a nice contract, especially for his production, man. He's been playing great. Keldon Johnson is locked in for the next 2 years. That's a nice contract as well, if he could really bounce back. Zach Collins is locked in for another year. You may want to think about trading him. He's solid, but you may want to think about trading him. Victor Wembanyama, of course, he locked in. Stephon Castle locked in. Chris Paul on a 1-year contract. Devontae Graham on a 1-year contract. Trey Jones is on a 1-year contract. That's something you got to really handle. Jeremy Sochan, of course, he locked in next 2 seasons. Malachi Branham, he locked in for the next 2 seasons. And, you know, the rest of these players, it ain't much to talk about. But, hey, man, let's just talk about what's next for this team. So, at number 1, what's next for this team is that you want the younger players to improve, man. You want Victor Wembanyama to, you know, just work on his efficiency a little bit more, build a little bit more muscle so that he can, you know, be able to bang a little bit more with those bigger centers and bigger power forwards. So that's something I'd have him work on. When it comes to Trey Jones, I'd have him working with Chris Paul over the offseason. Same with players like Stephon Castle, you know, working with Chris Paul. When it comes to Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, I want them trying to be on the Team USA if they can. You know, I want them to be, you know, just trying to work with any high-level stars, high-level guards, and small forwards that they can, so that they can continue working on their game. You know, and that would be my number 1. Just the younger players working on their game and coming in better. Number 2 is you got to make some decisions on some of these 1-year contracts or final year contracts that you have. You have Devontae Graham, who's on his final year of his contract. You have Trey Jones, who's on the final year of his contract. Of course, they just signed Chris Paul, so you may not trade him. But hey, you gotta make a couple of small moves to get rid of some of these smaller or shorter term contracts. Me personally, I feel like I would make a decision on letting Devontae Graham go, trying to trade him, and I'd also throw in one of the young pieces. You kind of at this point gotta pick the young pieces that you really want to invest into. Me personally, the young piece that I would let go, I know a lot of people not go like this, is Jeremy Sochan. I'm just not impressed. I'd also throw Malachi Branham or Julian Champagny in there as well, because I'm just not as impressed with those players. But you kind of at this point gotta find the young players that you really want to invest into and, you know, give all the minutes, because this team is filled with young players. And let's be real, some of these young players, they not gonna make it. And what I mean by that is that they not gonna make it to the starting roster. They're not players that will get as much development as the others. So you gotta choose the certain young players that you want to actually invest your assets in, sign to long-term contracts, and just invest time into, so that they can be that focal point and a face of your team with Victor Wembanyama. Now, the final thing that I think is possible and what they should possibly do is find a new coach. Now, I know a lot of people not gonna like this. You know, a lot of people say Greg Popovich the GOAT. But me personally, I think it's just time for a new face to be in that locker room. And, you know, Greg Popovich, he is getting old. He's getting very old, and I feel like eventually you will have to, you know, move on from Greg Popovich. I know he is a keystone within the Spurs organization, but I do think that it's time for them to move on and have someone be that successor to Greg Popovich, a younger voice in that locker room. But hey, that's my thoughts on what's next for this San Antonio Spurs team. If you enjoyed the video, you already know what to do. Like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the motherfucking channel, turn on notifications and all that good stuff, and I'm out. Peace.